Okay, great. Good to be with all of you this morning. Thank you for those wonderful introductions and comments. And Kathleen and I have already been juicing it up in the back, and so we've got a plan here. I guess the big question I want to start with is, are you an activist that just happens to act, or are you an actress that found activism?
Well, certainly the activism preceded the celebrity. That my father was a foreign service officer, and I grew up in a tradition basically that we do serve, and even overseas as representatives of our country's government, my mother and my siblings and myself would always volunteer in Venezuela at an orthopedic hospital, in London at a clinic. So that has always, but at the same time, you see, I was always going to be an actor.
Always.
Always.
So they were blended.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about this and the long list of activists that our friend just mentioned, all tend to be wrapped around progressive causes. And I'm interested in what happens when you run into John Voight.
Oh. Well, one thing, I turned down working with him.
Sure.
Wow. I tell you, I don't believe, and this is where I think we've gone off track a lot in our country. I don't believe that everyone has to believe as I do. It is not my place to educate them or enforce them or do anything else. It is my right to try and persuade, to by example or by reason. But if they disagree, it's not a judgment call. They're not better or worse than me. They're not right or wrong. Well, I don't know about that.
I think it's interesting because one of the themes that we've been exploring in this series that we called We the People is the ability to have those debates and discussions. But at the end of the day, after the fight was fought, do you come back together and remember you're basically under the same tent, on the same boat? And so I'm interested in this question of how you see your rivals, maybe acting rivals, maybe acting rivals is the wrong way to put it, but political rivals, policy rivals, people who are trying to work for a different country than you're working for.
Oh, tough question. It is very hard for me to understand why people feel the need to impose their beliefs on others. It's sort of a blind spot, I suppose, in my brain. I just don't understand why they feel the need to what is the word, proselytize? This nation was surely founded on a freedom of speech, on freedom of religion, on the right to pursue your career and your beliefs as you believed, and anything outside of that, I do not understand. So when I encounter someone who will say, that a woman's right to choose what she should be doing with her body is a moral or evangelical or religious issue. First of all, it's almost invariably that they are male, which loses my respect immediately. Sorry, guys. But I don't understand what basis they have to speak on. So it's difficult. I suppose I try and remind them more than anything that it is my right to think differently.
I was thinking when we hoping we met to sort of look at your next productions that you might do down the road, and if HBO came to you and offered a pretty good set of Cartier watches or something for playing Phyllis Schlafly or Anita Bryant, would you do it?
Now, this came up. I was here in Washington doing.
Somebody asked that question?
Something like it. Yeah, we were
kidding. I thought it was completely original.
No, I was doing Molly Ivins. It was a wonderful liberal Texas. Biting comedian, political writer. In any case, and someone said, now this was 4 years ago. So someone said, well, would you be able to do Sarah Palin? And I said, no, I really, I mean, acting is not pretending.
Right.
You know, I really have to have a basis of belief in what I do, and I would be a very bad actor in that role.
You know, next Tuesday, I love the fact that we're doing this, and we're just, 5 days away from one of the biggest choices in the country, right? I mean, when you're up there acting on stage, you say, wow, Tuesday's the, I know you've already voted, but what do you think is going on in the country? I mean, you've been trying to channel the soul of this country and the soul of relationships and the soul of, the various efforts to dominate and control women. What do you think is going on in the country?
I want to start by saying that I believe that Americans are inherently good and that we will do the right thing. I really do believe that. As to the control, I think, and this has become clearer now than at any time, I think, in our history, that it is the fear of primarily white men who are losing a power base or losing what they feel to be their power. And it is their ability, traditionally, the men have in this country been the patriarchal, societal controllers of women, and that they were able to do that before there was the science to enable us to control our own bodies. Now that that is no longer true, then they must find another way to dominate. And I believe that this is essentially fear. It is fearfulness. If they don't control women, then who do they control? Oh, gee, maybe responsible for themselves. That's a tough one.
Let's talk about celebrities.
But I love men. I had to say that, sorry.
Let's talk about celebrities just as a class, because one of the questions that often comes up, and I think it was laid out, is that some people love celebrities jumping in and sponsoring things. I had, and this is on the record, but I had a conversation that she shared with me more once, and when she was still with Ashton Kutcher, they were going through, and she asked me and talked to me about what sorts of causes that were out there that I thought they might attach themselves to.
What?
I'm not kidding. And the one that they were leaning towards at the time, and I don't have, was looking at women that were victims of sexual and human trafficking and working on that. And I do think that Demi Moore went in that direction finally. But it's a different formula than I think you brought to the table, saying that you have these core concerns. And I'm interested in the industry of celebrityism. Is there a group of consultants that help celebrities find the cause they're for?
I have absolutely no idea. But no, I am practical. I'm very practical. I mean, I was first drawn and always drawn to women's health. That really became my most driving thing when I first moved back to the United States when I was 18 and started college at the University of Maryland, Southwest Missouri State in Springfield, Missouri. And it was, I mean, at that time I had no money and my father had just died and we were really truly cut loose in every way. And so I went to the Planned Parenthood Clinic in Springfield, Missouri to get the health care that I needed and for which I have felt indebted and knowing what that did for me, how that saved me then, when I had no resources, I will continue to fight that fight without pause. But when I started on People for the American Way about 31 years ago, see, I kind of predate celebrity, that is freedom of speech, protection of the First Amendment, and watchdog of the religious right. That is our mandate. Then I live in New York City, so I am on the board of City Meals on Wheels, and we now feed over 19,000 people a year, over 2 million meals a year, and it's growing, you know. But these are all programs where I can show up and be part of. I can stand in front of that Capitol. I can open a clinic. You know, you have a wonderful new clinic here on 4th Street Northeast.
And you all opened it what month?
Oh, it was just last month.
Brand new, yeah.
Yeah, just last month we opened it. It's very nice. Bravo. Anyway. City Meals on Wheels, I literally carry meals. One of my rules is that my name does not appear on any invitation at which I am not present. So even if it's one of my organizations, if it says Kathleen Turner, then Kathleen Turner is there. If I am not and cannot, then my name is not on it. That's my basic rule.
That's fascinating. So I want to make very clear the audience ought to be more. I sort of admired the fact that someone who might not have a cause was nonetheless trying to find where their presence could move the needle on something important. And I sort of fought her earnest interest in what were the big gaps, because they're sort of safe causes and unsafe ones. They're ones that, like we were talking about the risks. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that. I mean, just share with us how you feel your industry is doing.
Well, in fact, I think there are some very good people out there working. I think you mentioned Matt Damon for
Water
education.
and education.
Yeah, and I think that Ben, I'm so bad with names.
Affleck.
Yes! What he's doing in Africa is valuable. Yes, but these are hands-on people. Yeah, they show up and they do the work.
What kind of risks have you taken in your high profile with Planned Parenthood?
There have been. After the Boston bombings, the clinic bombings, there I went up to help with the services and the memorials and everything, and I received many death threats. My mother, God bless her, wrote me and begged me to stop, that she had received threats that sent to her, that say goodbye to your daughter stuff. So she was that bothered me more than any threat to my son. Leave my mom out of it, kind of thing. Or then now I'll get you, I've worried about the effect on my daughter, but my daughter is a grown woman now and tells me that's none of my business.
She apparently doesn't like it when you talk about sex.
Well, of course not.
Yeah,
No, she always closes her eyes.
I'm just saying that if you read about Kathleen Turner, some of the most wonderful vignettes are what you've revealed about your conversations with your daughter about various things you say about your various urges, and your daughter apparently goes crazy.
Yeah. Well, this one, the play I'm doing now at Arena Stage is the Year of Magical Thinking, and it's Joan Didion's work on grief, on the understanding of grief and loss in your life. And so my daughter comes to opening. My daughter comes to every opening. And she went backstage and she said, Mom, one of these days, would you do a play where your kid doesn't die?